Look at this beautiful Helvetia movement. It is sticking again, and let me show you how I got here. Hi, I'm Slav. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you for being here. Today I will continue with the Swiss Helvetia watch restoration. It's got a Swiss ETA 2612 movement inside. In part 1 I completely disassembled the movement, and now we are moving on to the assembly and testing. All parts were cleaned, and now we are ready to go. For part 1 of Helvetia watch restoration, you can find link in description. I will start with assembling the gear train and main spring barrel. I'm using Molykote DX paste for the barrel and assembly the gears. One of the most challenging parts of any watch restoration is getting all the pivots seated in their jewels at the same time. It takes patience and practice and steady hands, but that's the only way to make sure that the watch will work correctly. For now, I'm placing the barrel bridge, but I will actually remove it again in a moment. That gives me better access to the work with the gears under the train bridge. Here I'm fitting the center second wheel. That's what drives the second hand. Now comes to the train bridge. I'm removing this small cover to access the jewel underneath. I'm using gentle pressure with this plastic tool to keep everything in position while I work. I always do this under the microscope. This way I can see exactly when each pivot drops into its jewel. I'm using tweezers to gently nudge the wheels into the position. Actually, let me remove the barrel again. This gives me much better access to the gears and get them properly seated in their jewels. As we can see, this gear is sitting correctly. This won't. Everything is rotating correctly now. Now I will fit the barrel back. The pivots are sitting in their jewels and the gear train is rotated smoothly. Now I can secure the train bridge with a screw. I always check wheel alignment before tightening the screws. It prevents cracking jewels or bent pivots, which would ruin the restoration. I'm adding a little bit of oil and fit the steel plate cover back to the train bridge. Now it's time for the barrel bridge. I will refit it back. Now I'm adding HP 1300 oil to the ratchet wheel and to the crown wheel. As I had problem previously with the crown wheel, I will test it if everything works correctly. Here I'm using Radico to clean off excess oil and pick up any remaining dirt from the plate. Cleanliness is absolutely critical in watchmaking. Now I'll fit the click and the click spring, adding just a drop of HP 1300 so the click operates smoothly. Now I'm fitting click and the click spring. I'm using plastic tool to keep everything in place. Now I'm engaging the spring. I will add extra oil for smooth operation. And now I'm fitting a ratchet wheel and a screw. Watch this. I'm winding the mainspring without the pellet fork installed. See how freely these wheels turn. They are releasing all the stored energy from the barrel until the spring completely unwinds. This shows exactly that the gear train is working correctly. Now for the pellet fork. This is an extremely delicate part. One wrong move and I could bend or damage the pivot, which would basically end this restoration right here. These parts looks big on the screen, but in the real life they are teeny tiny. So I'm using microscope, and yes, it's not so easy to put that bridge in place. Now I'm securing it with the screw. The pellet fork is what controls the release of energy from the mainspring. It releases that power in tiny, precise amounts, keeping the balance wheel oscillating and the watch ticking steadily. I'm using Mobius 9415 specifically for the pellet stones. This is special oil designed for the escapement components. Now comes the balance wheel, the heart of any mechanical watch. I will fit it in place and gently nudge with the tweezers just to see if it moves freely. Yes, you can see both the balance wheel and the pellet fork moving together. That means the impulse jewel is making precise contact with the pellet fork. This interaction is what keeps the watch beating. Now I will wind the spring just a bit to see if we can get that ticking movement. Time to oil the jewel bearings. I will flip the main plate to access all the jewels on both sides. Each side of the balance staff has a jewel bearing system. It's made of two parts, the whole jewel, where the balance pivot actually runs, and the flat cap jewel on the top. We call that an end stone. This jewel reduces the friction dramatically and protects the delicate balance pivot from wear. In this particular watch, they are held in the place with small gold setting that keep everything perfectly secured. Now I will carefully unclip this gold setting and remove both the cap jewel and the whole jewel. I will oil it with Mobius 9010 and fit everything back together. Then secure it with the gold setting. I'm using Rodico to lift out these tiny jewels because it's perfect for this job. Rodico is like soft, sticky putty that doesn't leave any residue. When I press it gently against the jewel, it grabs onto it just enough to lift it out without dropping it or scratching anything. It's much safer than trying to use tweezers on something this size. One slip with metal tweezers and I could damage it or send it flying across the workshop. Same process on the other side, using Rodico to handle the tiny jewel, adding just right amount of the oil, then reassembling everything with the cap jewel and the gold setting. There is a big difference between Chinese and Swiss movements. Working on both, I can tell you that Swiss really pay attention to details like this. The jewel quality, the precision of the pivots, the materials, even the way these components fit together. Chinese movements have gotten much better over the years, but you can still feel the difference in the finishing. Swiss movements like this Helvetia were built to last generations, while many Chinese movements are designed more for affordability. Both have their place, but there is something special about restoring of the piece of that Swiss craftsmanship. With the train bridge, barrel bridge, and escapement all assembled on this side, I can flip the main plate and start working on the dial side mechanism. I'm starting with cannon pinion. I add a little bit of oil. And here is the date driving wheel. This component advances the date ring exactly once every 24 hours. Now I'm fitting the date finger and the finger spring. I'm using a piece of polyfilm to prevent the tiny spring from flying away. Losing it would be a real problem. Gentle pressure, and it clicks into place. Now for the date ring itself. Actually, I need to remove the date driving wheel temporarily so the ring fits underneath properly. Again, using polyfilm to help engaging the date finger with the date ring, making sure the finger sits precisely between the teeth. If you are still watching, thank you so much. Your support really means a lot. If you enjoyed this restoration, I would appreciate a like and subscribe if you would like to see more projects like this one. Now I'm fitting date finger and a spring cover. Also there is a small transfer wheel that connects the date driving wheel and the big wheel on cannon pinion. And here I made a small mistake. I installed the driving wheel, finger and the spring cover along with the date ring before fitting the keyless work. That sequence won't work properly, so I need to remove the cover and the date ring to install the winding mechanism first. These little errors happens, and it's good to understand the proper assembly sequence. Now I'm fitting the winding pinion and sliding pinion. Everything lubricated with Molykote DX paste. The stems goes in to hold everything in position. I'm using HP 1300 on all the pivot points for smooth, friction-free movement. I'm just wondering, would it be better to use Molykote DX paste for the pivot points? Let me know what you think in the comment. Next come the setting lever and the date operating lever. Then the yoke. It fits perfectly into the sliding pinion with its own special seat. And the yoke spring. Again, using polyfilm so I don't lose the critical component. That would definitely end the restoration right here. Now the setting lever spring. Oiling everything for smooth operation. Let me test the keyless work. I can change the position and wind the mechanism perfectly. Back to the date mechanism. Starting with the plate, using polyfilm to position the finger correctly. Date driving wheel and the cover plate for the finger and spring assembly. Now the intermediate wheel and quick set date wheel. Time for the motion work. This is what drives the hands on the dial side. The cannon pinion, minute wheel and hour wheel all work together to allow hand setting through the crown. Let me test both the keyless work and the date mechanism. First, I will pull the crown to the date setting position to check if quickset works. Perfect. The date advances correctly. Now switching to time setting position and rotating through 24 hours. The date changes exactly as it should. Everything in both the keyless work and calendar mechanism is functioning properly. Now, time to install the dial. To fit it correctly, I need to release these two small springs that will hold the dial in place. I haven't touched the dial surface at all. Just dust it gently. Every time you touch the dial, you risk making it look worse. The springs go back to secure the dial perfectly in position. I'm securing the movement to the case with two screws. Now for the hand, starting with the hour hand. I'm using plastic tweezers to avoid scratching either the hand or the dial surface. My hand setting tool ensures a perfect fit. Now the minute hand, checking the operation to make sure everything aligned correctly. Finally, the second hand. Time for the crystal, using my crystal press to sit it properly. And now the caseback completes the assembly. After testing on the time grapher, I'm getting about -8 seconds per day, a bit error of 6.4 milliseconds, and amplitude around 195 degrees. These numbers aren't perfect, there is definitely room for improvement, especially with amplitude and bit error. But what matters most is that this movement is alive and running. From here, I can work on fine adjustments step by step to bring it closer to factory specifications. I didn't clean the mainspring this time. Doing just that should improve the amplitude. I will record part 3 to show you if it makes any difference. And here it is, the Helvetia, fully restored and back on the wrist. Ticking beautifully once again. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole restoration. If you found it interesting, please give it a like and subscribe. There are plenty more projects coming.